All right, so today we're diving into interview prep for temperature screeners.
Definitely a role we're seeing a lot more of these days.
Yeah, and we've got some great resources from RoleCatcher to help us out with this.
Yeah, their career guides and interview guides are really useful.
Mm.
And they've even got some cool AI tools that we'll talk about a little later.
Okay, so before we get into the actual interview questions, let's just take a step back for a second.
Right.
For anyone who might not be familiar, could you just kind of describe what a temperature screener actually does?
Sure. So basically, you're on the front lines, right? You're the first person people see when they enter a building or an event or whatever.
Right.
And you're using a thermal scanner or a thermometer to check people's temperatures to make sure nobody with a fever is coming in.
So it's all about keeping everyone safe.
Exactly. Especially these days, it's a really important job.
Now, I was looking through the RoleCatcher Career Guide, and it seems like there's actually a lot of potential for growth in this field.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a dead-end job. You can
Yeah.
really build a career out of this.
That's interesting. What kind of career paths are we talking about?
Well, you might start out just doing basic screenings like we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
but from there you could move up into leadership positions, overseeing entire screening operations. You could get into data analysis, looking at trends and temperature readings. You could even become a consultant on safety protocols.
Wow, I had no idea. Okay, so let's dive into those interview questions.
Sounds good.
RoleCatcher gives some examples of common questions, and we're going to break down how to approach them.
And remember, it's not just about giving the textbook answer. They're looking for more than that.
What do you mean?
They want to see your judgment, your ability to think on your feet, your communication skills, all that good stuff.
Okay, well, let's start with this one. Can you describe how you would handle a situation where a person has an elevated temperature?
Ah, yes, the classic elevated temperature scenario.
So what are they really getting at here? What do they want to see?
It's all about showing that you can handle the situation calmly and efficiently.
Without freaking everybody out.
Exactly. You want to isolate the individual according to the protocol, of course,
Right.
but you also need to know when to escalate things to a supervisor or security. And you need to do it all without causing a panic.
Makes sense. So what kind of follow-up questions might they ask?
Well, they might ask something like, have you ever had to handle a medical emergency?
Oh, okay. So even if you haven't dealt with a medical emergency specifically, you should still have an example ready to go.
Exactly. Think about a time when you had to stay calm under pressure and make quick decisions. It doesn't have to be medical related.
Okay, good to know. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Okay, what's next?
This one's all about interpersonal skills. Can you describe a situation where you had to handle a difficult or upset individual?
Ah, the classic behavioral question.
So how do I answer that one? Should I make something up?
No. Always draw from real experience.
But what if I've never had a job where I had to deal with difficult people?
You don't necessarily need work experience. Think about a time when you had to de-escalate a situation, maybe in a volunteer role or even just in your personal life.
Okay, so I need to come up with a specific example
Yeah.
of a time when I successfully dealt with conflict.
Exactly. And when you're telling the story, focus on the actions you took to diffuse the situation. Did you listen actively? Did you use calming language? Did you offer alternative solutions?
And of course, what was the outcome?
Right. Did you manage to resolve the situation peacefully?
Okay, so it's not just about the story itself, it's about how I tell it and what I emphasize.
Exactly. And by the way, this is where those RoleCatcher AI tools can be really helpful.
How so?
Well, you can record yourself answering these questions and get feedback from the AI on your tone, your choice of words, even your body language.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It's like having a virtual interview coach.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on. Let's talk about this question. How do you ensure that you are following the proper protocol when conducting temperature screenings?
That seems pretty straightforward.
It is, but it's also an opportunity to show that you're not just following orders blindly. You actually understand the importance of the protocols.
So how do I do that?
Well, instead of just saying, I follow the rules, you could mention that you stay updated on the latest guidelines from the WHO or the CDC.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It shows that you're proactive and you're taking the initiative to stay informed.
Exactly. You could even mention pursuing additional training to enhance your skills.
Okay, so what kind of follow-up question might they ask about this?
They might say something like, what would you do if you noticed a discrepancy in the protocol?
Interesting. So they're trying to see how I would handle a potential problem.
Exactly. And again, this is where that critical thinking comes in. You need to show that you can identify issues and take steps to correct them.
Got it. Okay, let's keep going. What's the next question?
This one's all about time management. How do you prioritize your tasks when conducting temperature screenings?
Okay. So how do I show that I can handle a busy environment and still be efficient?
You need to give them a concrete framework. Maybe you use a mental checklist, or you prioritize based on visible symptoms, whatever it is. Make it sound practical and efficient.
So I should be prepared to explain my system for staying organized.
Exactly. And be ready for follow-up questions, too. They might ask, how do you handle distractions while maintaining accuracy?
That's a good one. I guess it's all about showing that you can stay focused even when things are chaotic.
Exactly. All right, let's tackle this one. Can you describe how you would handle a situation where an individual refused to have their temperature taken?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is, but it's a great opportunity to show your conflict resolution skills.
So what's the best approach? Should I just call security right away?
Not necessarily. Your first step is to try to de-escalate the situation. Calmly explain the why behind the screening. It's not about targeting individuals, it's about protecting everyone's health.
Right, it's about public safety.
Exactly. And if they're still resistant after you've explained the policy, then you can escalate things to your supervisor or security.
Okay, so it's all about finding that balance between enforcing the rules and maintaining a positive interaction.
Exactly. And they might ask a follow-up question about your experience dealing with people from diverse backgrounds.
Now, that's a good point.
It's important to show that you can communicate effectively with anyone, regardless of their background.
And again, those RoleCatcher AI tools can be really helpful for practicing those sensitive conversations.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have, but we've got plenty more to discuss.
Right. We'll be back with part 2 of this deep dive soon.
Looking forward to it.
See you then. Welcome back. So we're jumping right back into these temperature screener interview questions.
Yeah, let's pick up where we left off.
Okay, so this next one really focuses on the safety aspect of the job. How do you ensure that the temperature screening process is conducted in a safe and hygienic manner?
Yeah, that's important. It's not just about taking temperatures. It's about creating a safe environment for everyone.
Exactly. They want to see that you understand the why behind those safety procedures.
So it's not enough to just say, I follow the rules.
Right. You need to show them. You get it. Like, why it's important to sanitize the equipment after each use.
To prevent cross-contamination.
Exactly. Or why you wear gloves.
To protect both yourself and the person you're screening.
Right. You could even mention specifics like the type of disinfectant you use or how often you clean the equipment.
It's a good point. It shows that you're paying attention to those details.
And it demonstrates your commitment to safety.
What about follow-up questions? What if they throw in a tricky scenario?
Oh, they definitely will. They might ask something like, what would you do if you ran out of hand sanitizer in the middle of a shift?
Ooh, that's a good one. What would you say?
Well, you need to show that you can think on your feet. You could say that you would immediately notify your supervisor.
All right.
And in the meantime, you would find an alternative sanitizing solution, like alcohol wipes, or maybe just emphasize the importance of frequent hand washing.
Okay, so it's all about being resourceful and adaptable.
Exactly. You need to be able to handle those unexpected situations.
Okay, so this next question might seem a little off topic, but it's actually quite relevant. Can you describe a time when you had to handle a confidential or sensitive situation?
Right. It might not seem directly related to temperature screening, but it's about showing that you can be trusted with sensitive information.
Yeah, I guess you are dealing with people's health data,
Exactly.
and that's confidential.
So what kind of example should I give?
It doesn't have to be healthcare related. Think back to any situation where you had to handle information with care. Maybe you dealt with a confidential customer issue at a previous job.
Or maybe you helped a friend through a personal situation that required discretion.
Exactly. The key is to highlight how you handle the situation with sensitivity and professionalism.
And of course that you maintained confidentiality.
Right. Okay, let's get back to those tricky scenarios. What if they ask you this? Can you describe how you would handle a situation where an individual had a fever but was still permitted to enter the building?
That's a tough one. That puts you in a weird position. It does. But it's a chance to show that you understand the chain of command and that you're committed to following protocol.
So what would you do?
First, document everything. Write down the temperature, any other relevant details.
Right.
Then politely inform your supervisor of the situation.
Okay, so I'm not overstepping my boundaries, but I'm making sure that the situation is handled properly.
Exactly. Your job is to screen and report. The decision to allow entry lies with someone else.
What kind of follow-up questions might they ask about this?
They might ask about your comfort level voicing concerns or challenging decisions made by those in authority.
So they want to see that I have integrity, but that I also understand professional boundaries.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
Okay, let's move on to another important topic.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that the temperature screening process is conducted in a non-discriminatory manner?
This is all about fairness and inclusivity.
Right. How do I show that I understand that?
Start by stating clearly that you treat all individuals with respect and dignity regardless of their background, and then give specific examples of how you ensure fairness in the screening process.
Like I would use the same procedures for everyone, regardless of their appearance or anything else.
Exactly. You could also mention that you're aware of the potential for unconscious bias and that you strive to remain objective.
It's about creating a welcoming and safe environment for everyone.
Right. And this is another area where those RoleCatcher AI tools can be helpful. They can analyze your language and tone to make sure you're communicating effectively and respectfully.
Okay, so let's talk about strengths. What are your greatest strengths as a temperature screener?
This is your chance to shine. Think about all the skills we've been discussing: attention to detail, calm under pressure, communication skills, problem-solving abilities.
So I should just list them all off.
Not quite. It's more effective to illustrate those strengths with specific examples.
You mean example?
Instead of just saying, I'm detail-oriented, you could say something like, I'm meticulous about recording accurate temperatures and documenting any unusual observations. In my previous role, this attention to detail helped us identify a potential safety hazard that could have been overlooked.
Ah, I see. So it's about showing, not just telling.
Exactly. And don't forget to use those RoleCatcher career guides to research the specific skills that are most valued in this role.
That's a good tip.
Okay.
Okay, so what about when they flip the script and ask, do you have any questions for us?
Ah, yes. The dreaded question.
A lot of people just say no and breathe a sigh of relief.
I know. But that's a missed opportunity.
Really?
Because the questions you ask can reveal just as much about you as the answers you give. It's your chance to show that you're curious, engaged, and genuinely interested in the role.
Okay, so what kind of questions should I ask?
Avoid questions that could be easily answered with a quick Google search. Focus on questions that demonstrate you've been paying attention and you're eager to learn more. You could ask about the company's specific protocols for handling elevated temperatures or other health concerns.
Or maybe about opportunities for professional development or training.
Exactly. Those are great examples. It shows that you're thinking long-term and you're interested in growing with the company.
Okay, so it's not just about getting information, it's about making a good impression.
Right. And remember, an interview is a two-way street. It's your chance to assess whether this is the right fit for you, just as much as it's their chance to assess you.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have, and I feel much more prepared for that interview now.
That's great to hear. And don't forget, RoleCatcher is there to support you every step of the way.
Right. Those AI tools are pretty amazing.
They are. All right, well, we've got one more part of this deep dive to go.
I can't wait. We'll be back soon. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into acing that temperature screener interview.
We've talked about a lot already, so let's wrap things up with some final tips and insights.
Okay, so what do we still need to cover?
Well, RoleCatcher highlights this question about efficiency. How do you ensure the temperature screening process is conducted efficiently and effectively? You know, it's not just about getting accurate readings, it's about keeping things moving smoothly.
Especially in a busy environment.
Exactly. So you want to show that you're organized and efficient?
So how do I do that?
Well, you could talk about using clear signage to direct people.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Or maybe you have a system for quickly recording temperatures without sacrificing accuracy.
You could even mention something like visually assessing people to see if anyone might need a secondary screening right away.
Exactly. It's all about minimizing wait times and keeping the flow going.
But what about those unexpected situations? Like, what if the equipment malfunctions or someone needs extra assistance?
That's where your ability to adapt comes in. You need to be able to handle those curveballs without getting flustered.
So, for example, if the thermometer breaks down, I could say that I would immediately switch to a backup thermometer.
Right. Or you could implement manual temperature checks while you troubleshoot the issue.
It's about showing that you can think on your feet and find solutions.
Exactly. Okay, now let's talk about a question that often makes people nervous. What are your salary expectations?
Ooh. Yeah, that one could be tricky.
It can, but don't worry. We've got some tips.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, do your research. Use resources like RoleCatcher's career guides to get a sense of the average salary range for this type of position in your area.
So I should have a number in mind before I go into the interview.
Well, it's good to have a range rather than a specific number.
Oh, okay. That makes
So
sense.
when they ask you about your expectations, you can say something like, based on my research and experience, I'm targeting a salary range of X to Y.
Okay, so I'm not locking myself into a specific number, but I'm giving them a ballpark figure.
Right. And be confident, but also be open to negotiation.
Okay, good advice. Now, what about that final question? Do you have any questions for it?
Ah, yes, the classic closing question.
I know some people just say no because they're so relieved that the interview is almost over.
But again, that's a missed opportunity.
So what kind of questions should I ask?
Think about what you genuinely want to know about the role, the company, or the team.
Hmm.
For example, you could ask about opportunities for professional development.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Or you could inquire about the company's specific protocols for handling health concerns.
It shows that you're thinking long-term and you're interested in growing with the company.
Exactly. And it's a chance to gather some valuable information for yourself.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have. We've talked about everything from handling tricky scenarios to showcasing your strengths.
I feel much more prepared for that interview now.
That's great to hear. And remember, those RoleCatcher AI tools are there to help you practice and refine your answers.
Yeah, they're a game changer.
So go out there and ace that interview.
You've got this. And thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it helpful. Until next time.